right, guys, so here we go. We have the fourth rule for our exponent rules now. Mine fell on page 56, and we're now doing exponent rules, and it's the quotient rule. And quotient just means dividing. So make sure that you have your table of contents, and then let's go ahead and flip over to it. I've got to find it really quick. 1 second. Okay. And again, like I have before, I already have some examples written down for you. So if you would just go ahead and pause, and you may not be able to write all of these because I know the exponents are tiny. So if you need to do it as I go, that's fine. Just pause and go. But the quotient rule, which just means dividing. So like your rule is x to the a divided by x to the b. So when we're dividing, it's the opposite of multiplication. So when we were multiplying, we added the exponents. So when you're dividing, you are going to subtract the exponents. So a minus b. Okay, now, if you have coefficients, you have to actually divide them. And if you have exponents, you must subtract them. And one of the subtractions can be a little tricky. So when I get to that one, I will definitely let you know. So for my examples, and I can zoom in a little bit if you want me to, so it makes it just a little bit bigger. Let me refocus it. Okay. So for my first example, I have k to the 12th over k squared. This one does not have any coefficients, so I'm just going to go straight into subtracting my exponents. Well, 12 minus 2 is 10, so I'm going to have k to the 10th. Okay. When you have m to the third divided by m to the third, again, I do not have any coefficients to divide, and 3 minus 3 makes m to the 0, but this cannot be my final answer because I just want to show y'all something. Let me find my calculator really quick. When you have anything to the 0 power, and I mean anything, so like 3 to the 0, you're going to get 1. 5 to the 0, you're going to get 1. 3,256 to the 0, you are going to get 1. So anytime anything is to the power of 0, your answer is just 1. You no longer have a letter. The letter disappears. Okay, for my next example, I have x to the 20th, y to the 9th, z squared, over x to the 5th, y to the 9th, z. You're going to go one letter at a time, but first thing I'm going to look, is there a coefficient? Since there's not a leading number in the front other than 1, you can't do anything with it. So you're just going to subtract. 20 minus 5 gives me x to the 15th. 9 minus 9 gives me 0, and I don't need that. That just means that the y's cancel. Because remember, if it's 0, it's just 1, and I don't put a 1 in the middle. And then z squared minus z, there is a 1 there, so 2 minus 1 is just 1, and that's your final answer. Okay, I have 6x to the 4th over 2x to the 3rd. Okay, this time I have coefficients, so I must divide them. 6 divided by 2 is 3. X to the 4th divided by x to the 3rd. So 4 minus 3 becomes x to the 1st. If you want to write the first power, you can, but you never have to write that one. Moving to example 5. Excuse me. I have negative 36c squared d to the 5th divided by 4c squared d to the 3rd. Okay, the first thing we're going to take care of are the coefficients. So negative 36 divided by 4 is negative 9. C squared divided by c squared, 2 minus 2 becomes 0. If it becomes 0, that's a 1. I don't need a 1. I already have a number. D to the 5th divided by d to the 3rd, so 5 minus 3 becomes d squared. Okay, moving on. 4n to the 5th divided by 8n. Okay, if I have 4n to the 5th divided by 8n, first is the coefficients. 4 divided by 8. This will not give you a whole number, but you must simplify it. 4 over 8 simplifies to 1/2. Okay, and then if you have n to the 5th divided by n, that's a 1. So 5 minus 1 becomes n to the 4th. Okay, now for your last one, if you don't know that in your head, you have 36m to the 9th, n to the 5th, divided by 54m to the 3rd, n squared. To show you how you can do this really fast and quick and let it simplify for itself, if you open up a fraction and you just do 36 over 54, it'll simplify it for you when you hit enter, and it simplifies to 2/3. So you don't have to worry even about simplifying it if you just put it in the fraction form. Okay, so once I have 2/3, now I look at my m's, m9 and m3. When I divide those, you actually subtract, which gives me m6. And n5 and n2, so 5 minus 2 gives me n3. And there's my answers. Now we're going to move into some of the mixed practice. So there are those examples. Sorry, I can't get all of 13 on the page, but I'll move it over in a minute. So if you want to pause and write those really quick, you can. Now, my first thing to tell y'all is when you are doing these, and if you want to write this, what you're going to do first is the power rule. So that means parentheses with the exponent on the outside. And then you're going to do your, quotient or product rule. So you're multiplying or dividing. And then the last rule you're going to do is your add or subtract. Okay, those are the 4 rules that we've now learned, and that's the order you have to solve it once you do mixed. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to look for is see if there are parentheses with the exponent on the outside. Since there is, this 3 comes all the way over here to 2, and I'm going to do 2 to the 3rd. Well, 2 to the 3rd is 8. And then remember, when you're doing the power rule, you're just multiplying. So 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Then I bring in what's left. I have 4a to the 3rd, b to the 7th. So now I have 8a to the 6th, b to the 12th, divided by 4a to the 3rd, b to the 7th. Since this is the quotient rule, I divide my coefficients. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And I subtract my exponents. 6 divided by 3, so actually 6 minus 3, because we're dividing. Exponents, which means subtracting, would be a to the 3rd. And then b 12th divided by b to the 7th. So you subtract your exponents, which would give you b to the 5th. And there's your final answer. Okay, example 9. First thing I'm going to look for is a parentheses with the exponent on the outside. I have a 4 out here, so I'm going to do 2 to the 4th, because you have to take the number to the power. 2 to the 4th is 16. And then we multiply. Remember, c has a 1, so 1 times 4 would be c to the 4th. 4 times 4 would be d to the 16th. Write my division bar. Okay, and now what you're going to do, you look at the bottom, you have another outside exponent. I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to put it on 2. So 2 squared is 4. And then I multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, so C4. 2 times 3 is D6. Now I actually divide. So divide your whole numbers. 16 divided by 4 is 4. C4 divided by C4, so we're subtracting. 4 minus 4 cancels each other. It becomes 0. So I no longer have C, because remember up top, if it became 0, it becomes 1. I already have a whole number. I don't need 1. So d to the 16th divided by d to the 6th, we're going to do 16 minus 6, which will give me d to the 10th, and there is my answer. Okay, for example 10. This one's just written a little differently. So for this one, you have 2m to the 4th n squared divided by 4m squared n, and it's all to the 3rd. Since the 3rd is on the outside, that 3 goes to everything. So we're going to do 2 to the 3rd. 2 to the 3rd is 8. And then I multiply my exponents. So I get m to the 12th and n to the 6th. Over. Now this 3 comes down here to 4. So 4 to the 3rd. I'm going to check my math, but I am pretty sure I wrote the wrong thing. It is, 64. And then multiply your exponents. So you get m6 n3. Now you just have to do your division. Well, 8 divided by 64 can simplify, which will give me 1/8. M12 divided by M6, 12 divided by 6, we're not actually dividing. Remember, we're subtracting exponents, so you get M6. And then n6 and n3, 6 minus 3 becomes 3. So 1/8 m to the 6th n to the 3rd. Okay, now I just got 3 more. So for number 11, excuse me, I have 9x to the 5th y to the 6th times 4xy, all divided by 6x squared y to the 4th. The first thing I look for is to see if there's an outside exponent. There are no exponents outside the parentheses, so I move to the quotient or product rule. Okay, we're going to have to multiply this top before I can do any division. So 9 times 4 is 36, and when you are multiplying, you add your exponents. So if I have an x5 and an x1, that's x6. If I have a y6 and a y1, that's y7. Then I bring down my 6x squared y to the 4th, and now I can divide. So 36 divided by 6 is 6. If you have an x6 and an x2, 6 minus 2 is 4. And if you have a y7 and a y4, 7 minus 4 is 3. And there are your exponent rules. Okay. Moving to number 12. 3m squared times negative 4 n to the 5th squared divided by 8m to the 3rd n squared. Okay, this one turns out to be more steps. So let's see if I can fit this all in here. We're going to take the outside exponents and we're going to bring them in. So 3 squared is 9. And then 2 times 2 gives me m to the 4th. And I keep a times sign because these are being multiplied, not being added. Then I take the negative 2 and I bring it into the 4. So negative 4 squared is 16. And 2 times 5 is 10. So n to the 10th. And this is still all divided by 8m to the 3rd n to the 4th. Okay, now I have to do my product rule. So we're going to do 9 times 16, which is, I'm going to write it underneath, 144. And then since this is the only m in the top, I keep it, m to the 4th. Since this is the only n in the bottom, I keep it. And then I'm dividing by 8 m to the 3rd n to the 4th. So now I can do my division. So 144 divided by 8 is 18. If I have an M4 and an M3, that just makes 1M, 4 minus 3. And if I have an N10 and an N4, 10 minus 4 makes 6. So that would be my final answer. So that one was multiple steps, so be careful. Okay, for the last one, we have another multiple step. Okay, the first thing I'm going to look for is an exponent on the outside of the parentheses. I do not have one, so the first thing I have to do is this multiplication. 8 times 3 is 24. And then I add my exponents. So a 5 and a 3 make 8. A 2 and a 4 make 6. Keep my divide by 12rs to the 4th. Keep my plus 9r to the 7th s squared. Okay, now I'm going to do my division, my quotient rule. 24 divided by 12 is 2. R8 and R1, 8 minus 1 is 7. S6 and S4, 6 minus 4 is 2. And then I bring down 9R to the 7th S squared. Since this is now an addition problem, remember when you are adding, you cannot not change your exponents. So your exponents have to be the exact same in order to add. And since I have R7 and S2 and R7 and S2, I will only add my coefficients, which now makes me have 11, and I keep R7, S2, and that's my final answer. Okay, if y'all have any questions for me, please let me know.